see everywhere. And I said, wow, that's nice. It's all chaparral. I said, do they get any water? You can't do it, you know, I don't care how many square miles you have, if you don't have water, they're not going to be able to do anything. All that grows out there is chaparral. So let's talk about water. And we don't normally think of it. We think of the bathroom faucet and the kitchen faucet, right? That's usually what we think about water. Rainwater is absolutely the best. Your garden will just explode after a good rain. It's beautiful, and it's, you know, it's really great stuff. So rainwater catchment is very important. Ponds, if you happen to have a pond or access to a pond, they can also be excellent as long as it's a healthy pond, you know, that's got life in it. And actually sometimes those can be better than the rainwater just because of all the life and nutrients in the pond. You know, urban backyard people may not likely be possible, but even sometimes just a small pond that you dig out, you know, 3 foot by 6 foot, just to get that water that you've had minnows or something growing in, it really helps. A well water, you know, again, you need to test it. I know one farmer has 2 wells. He has one real shallow one that has a ton of minerals. He uses it as fertilizer. And the other one's deep and pretty good stuff. And then, of course, the public water system. And in my experience, the public water system, you know, by God, if that's what you've got, use it. But it's a well-known thing in our community that if you're going to grow out chickens or ducks or small poultry, if you're going to feed them the aqua water, which we have, it's going to take them, instead of being you know, market weight at 12 weeks, it's going to take them 18 to 20 weeks. It's going to take them almost twice as long to gain the weight that you need. And most of us are just figuring, well, they chlorinate the heck out of it. It's killing something in their gut, or you know, they don't produce as well on the water when you get it from the community water system. So yeah.
What about spring water?
Yeah, no, that would be. I would classify that as pond or well.
Well,
yeah.
I've had meetings with some of my friends here in Austin. We have not found a decent spring.
There you go. That's the other problem.
I was hoping you might know one.
Yeah.
Yeah, decent spring. You know, where we could bring our bottles and get, you know, really pure water.
Huh. Yeah, no, I don't.
Nobody? Anybody?
I don't know if you'd call it a decent spring. I mean, you'd have to walk to it, but in the Greenbelt, close to the Scottish Woods entrance, on the other side, there's a place where there's water just coming right out of the...
Is it?
I drink it. I love it. I've never been sick from it, but, you know, I don't know. There's definitely houses, you know, I mean, it's not... There are houses above. It's not like, you know, wilderness or anything.
I'll talk to you afterwards.
But it's one that comes down through like 50 or 60 feet of stone.
Maybe we'll, yeah, my friend can, they have little meters, they can test it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have one question. If you take city water and you let it sit in the sun for a day, does that take all the chemicals out and make it like rainwater?
I believe it helps, but I've heard also recently that they've been adding some kind of superchlorine that doesn't dissipate with time. So you'll need to check. You know what's a great resource here is the local permaculture group, the Austin Permaculture Group, and I know people on that list know about that specifically for the Austin area. It used to be, yeah, you could just take some city water and let it sit in a tank for a while and all this stuff would evaporate out, because chlorine obviously has a low volatility, you know, or high volatility, it gives away pretty quickly. But I don't know now, because then I heard the municipalities were changing the chlorine that they use. So. This is an example of one of our rainwater collection systems. You know, most likely you're not going to be able to do anything that extensive, but I just want to show it to you, just to show you how, you know, you really need to have rainwater off of every roof. This is a little chicken tractor, and it's 3 foot by 7 foot, and my husband, who is a genius with PVC, built me a little rainwater collection system on the chicken tractor. So we're striving to have the water collection off of every roof, and water is really that important. So how much water do you need? And the 3 broad categories are your household, your livestock, and your irrigation. Now for your household, you really don't need that much. You really don't need that much. I was very inspired by some young people I met here in Austin that they were trying to figure out how little they could get by with. And for their personal hygiene and drinking needs, they had it down to 2 gallons a day. That's pretty extreme. But you know, realistically, you know, I mean, even if you're using 20 or 30 gallons a day, that's not really that much. Your livestock, also chickens, you know, 1/10 of a gallon a day per chicken. Even if you have cows, that's only about 10 gallons a day per cow. Your biggest need is going to be irrigation for your plants in your garden and your perennials for your orchard. One of the key equation that you pretty much need to know if you want to deal with any kind of water, and you'll see this equation come up over and over again, is that 1 inch of rainfall on a square foot is 6/10 of a gallon. And so that's how you figure out how much water, how many gallons you're going to get off your roof, and also how many gallons that you're going to need to water. Because a rough guideline is that for a 100 square foot bed, you're going to need, for any garden bed and for most of your orchard crops, you're going to need about 1 inch of rain a week. Now, right away, you can, does anybody know what the average for Austin is, the rainfall, the annual average?
35 inches.
Yeah, 35 inches. So right away, you know you're going to need more water because 1 inch of rain per week is about 52 inches a year. So right away, you know you're going to need more water than just, and of course that average is a wild thing, isn't it? You know, last couple of years it was about 14 inches as the annual, and then the year before that it was about 60 inches for the annual. So, you know, that when they say average, they mean average. You know, so you have to have some things to be able to get you through that. But this is a real, and you can start to say, well, if I've got this many square feet in my garden, I'm going to need approximately this much water. And we all know that that varies depending on, you know, the middle of August, 105 degrees outside, high winds, you know, you're going to need more water. I actually haven't had to water much for the past couple of months in my garden. Very, very rarely picked up the hose. It's been so nice. We just keep getting rain. It seems like we don't need it. Now, how much land area is needed? And that's the next big question. So, you know, you kind of might be able to get an idea from the equations for the amount of water. The other is how much land area is it? You know, obviously you're not going to be growing it all on your patio in your apartment, but do you need 100 acres also? And there's a lot of variables, of course, that go into this. And the most thoroughly researched and solid information we have on this, it was done by John Jevons, and it's called the biointensive method of gardening. He's been doing this since the 1970s. Anybody remember the 70s? We were all buzzing around back then. It was a good decade. It was fun. But that, you know, there was that whole panic back then. That was when the United States peaked in oil production. Now we're looking at facing a world peak in oil production, which is a whole other problem. But the same response. So he was saying, how do you know, he was asking the same question back in the 70s. How would one person grow all the food that they need if they had to? Now he had to start limiting things to make it reasonable. So he chose a vegetarian system. And he also realized that he was looking at what we're talking about, the same situation, that people just don't have a whole lot. They don't have a whole lot of money to go out and buy soil to get started, or they don't have a whole lot of money to buy a bunch of equipment or tools. The other thing is he's in Willits, California. It's a pretty nice growing thing. They got 4 seasons, you know, it's a pretty nice environment. It's not as harsh as Texas is. So he's got 4 growing seasons. So, you know, if you're talking about implementing this in Wisconsin, you're going to need to adjust things a little bit. But this method that he has developed and the research that he's done has been implemented worldwide. It's in Russia, Mexico, you know, Africa, India, everywhere. They're teaching people how to garden and farm using the biointensive method. And it's really addressing. He wrote this book, and it's got a lengthy title, but it really does say it all. How to grow more vegetables than you ever imagined in less space than you ever thought possible. So say that fast 10 times. But here's the short answer to what Jevons found out. He said you had to have a 40-bed system, and each bed is 100 square feet. So you need about 4,000 square feet of bed space. Now, if you're going to add in the paths, you know, the 1- and 2-foot paths and stuff like that, you're talking about a minimum of you know, 7,000 square feet or so. Now that's a little bit big for your average backyard, but this is a complete vegetarian diet, and we're going to go off on that a little bit more. But that does give us one point, right? That gives us one of like, here's, they figured this out, and they figured it all out in terms of how much calories you need, how much protein you need, how many carbohydrates and all the minerals and stuff, and then if you planted these in succession after that, and he's got this whole method, and we'll go over more of it. He's really got it worked out. And